Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone. Your journey, our passion.
This is Autoline After Hours with Gary Vasilash, episode 269 for December 12th, 2014. Fiat 500X marks the spot.
Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time or 2300 GMT. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or by following the links on our website.
Good evening, everyone who's watching this live, and greetings to those of you who are deciding to time shift. As regular viewers of Autoline After Hours know, this is not the set of Autoline After Hours. As viewers of Autoline After Hours know, this is not John McElroy. John's not here this evening, and so I'm hosting the ship without him. Now, the reason we have this set is actually the Autoline set. And the reason we're using the Autoline set for Autoline After Hours is tomorrow morning, Mark Royce from General Motors is coming in. They're going to film an Autoline with Mark. It will be shown the first week of January, so little plug there. You might want to watch your calendars for seeing Mark Royce on Autoline, so it should be a good show, and we've got this magnificent set to do the show with. So, even though we don't have John, we've got a couple of the smartest people in the industry, by far, experienced, they know what's going on. Stephanie Brinley from IHS. How you doing, Steph?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. What have you been up to?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Getting ready for Detroit Auto Show, for one.
Yeah.
And trying to wrap up this year. It's been a really busy, crazy year.
Yeah, it's been a big year.
It's been a good year.
Yeah, so we're almost done with the year. And
and we've let in with the early part of the year. It's been a great year to talk about positive things and sales increasing and new product coming out. So it's been a really good year. That's
absolutely sure. And so we have Chris Paukert from Autoblog, AOL.
Great to be back.
So what have you been up to?
Much of the same as Stephanie. I mean, all the year-end stuff and trying to attend all these backgrounders that are coming up for the Detroit show and get everything straight. There's going to be a lot of great things in Detroit, it looks like.
Okay, well, we'll certainly have that all covered. I know that Autoline will be down there doing live bits. But we've got Matt Davis, head of marketing for Fiat in America, and he brought along a magnificent-looking yellow vehicle. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And what did you bring for us to look at?
So this is the new entry to the Fiat showroom. It is the Fiat 500X. It'll be here the second quarter of next year, so we're excited to have it. And it really is the next evolution for the brand to go into the UV space and take advantage of all the opportunity that's going to be coming our way there.
So you just used UV, didn't put a C in front of that.
You know, I think that when you talk to the average consumer, I don't know if they go SUV, CUV. I think they look for size and shape and functionality and capability. And I think, you know, from that perspective, when you look at all the like-size vehicles, this kind of fits the bill. And then it has the flair of Fiat, which is very appealing to a lot of people out there. So
this will become the third vehicle in the showroom?
Yeah, it will be the third one, and I think it kind of combines the, you know, we had the 500 for a few years, and we came out with the 500L. That was a lot more functional and a lot bigger than the 500. And this kind of combines the best of both worlds. It gives you the look of the 500. When you start looking at the front end, it really has the iconic look of the 500 with all that functionality and finally an all-wheel drive. So we're very, very excited to have that to open up some avenues at parts of the country that maybe we're looking for more of the all-wheel drive capability.
So I know some people are a little confused about where the 500X stands in relation to the L. Can you talk about it in terms of platforms and relative size, since we don't have another vehicle to compare to?
The 500, well, starting out with the 500 is about 139 inches, so we'll set the table there. The 500L is 166 inches, and this is 161 inches. So it's a little bit smaller, but it also gives you a completely different dynamic from a ride and handling and the all-wheel drive capability. The platform for the 500L and the 500X are almost virtually not the same at all. It's 10% of the 500L platform was basically used when doing the all-wheel drive small wide platform. And then we actually put in a much larger engine than we put in the 500L. So we're going to have 2 different engine options that, again, deliver that fun to drive along with a 9-speed transmission that I think will really give that fuel economy and things people also look for in a vehicle this size.
So what are the powertrains going to be? The European version is going to have all sorts of powertrains. How about the U.S. market?
They have a very, very large powertrain combinations in Europe. In the U.S. market, we will have a manual. We'll have the 1.4-liter turbo that will have a 6-speed manual transmission. But that's going to be a very small part of the mix. When you look at the people evolving through a vehicle like this, we feel like automatic is going to be the big player here. So we're going to put the 2.4-liter, 180 horsepower, 175 foot-pounds of torque, made it to a 9-speed automatic transmission. And that's going to, I think, on a less than 3,000-pound vehicle, give a really fun and peppy car to drive. So you kind of get that Fiat flair with a great-looking vehicle.
And you'll be one of the few in this size class that's offering a manual transmission coming this year, because we have, 5 new vehicles pretty much the same size coming out in 2014. And you and the Renegade, I think, are the only ones that are going to go with the manual, right?
Yeah, no, the entry level for us is where we're going to offer the manual just for the entry level price point. And then after that, we'll pretty much have the automatic as standard across the platform. And again, I think that as you evolve within the brand, we're just now getting to a point where we get some loyalty numbers back. And with a vehicle like this, where someone who previously didn't have a family or just needs a little bit more capability or functionality, this is a great step-up vehicle, along with opening the door with a lot of the competitors are coming in the market to go head-to-head with them.
I have a question, but before, all of you out there, send in your questions, and we'll get them to Matt. I'm wondering, what does this compete with, A, and then B, a lot of people are not familiar with Fiat in the market. I mean, we all sit here and, we remember Fiat and we know Fiat, but, I mean, clearly there has to be a whole category of people that don't know what the brand means or what the brand represents. And I'm assuming a lot of these are younger people. Are you finding vehicles resonating with them in a way that non-Fiat vehicles don't?
That's been the most exciting and probably the most challenging part about this job is trying to get people even aware of what the brand is. We actually got to finally have 50% awareness in the marketplace over the last 3 years, which is a huge step from where we started before in 2011 when we launched the brand. But 50% of my customers are millennials and Gen Xers who, when Fiat left, never knew what Fiat was, and now that they're buying cars, to your point on giving customers credit, I mean, there's a lot of people that know the industry, and there's a lot of people that only look at the industry when they're shopping. So we have to continue to educate people on us being back and what we stand for. But we have so many Facebook fans that are out there that we've sold 170,000 cars since we relaunched the brand, and we have so many people that want to be a part of it. So we resonate. It's just now having a vehicle that can fit their lifestyle, that they can actually drive on a daily basis. And that's why we're so excited about this opportunity to bring the 500X here.
So what does this bring them besides the possibility of getting all-wheel drive that the L doesn't have?
So when you look at this particular vehicle, the things that the brand is known for is the style, the design, the fun-to-drive aspects. And a lot of the research we've done, which is important to us because we want to know what the feedback is, people say they love driving again, which to a manufacturer, that's phenomenal. I mean, there's so many vanilla vehicles out there, and I'm sure there's people that love those vehicles, but there's also people that want something unique and different, and that's why this car is so important. We're going to give, 70% of the vehicle is high-strength steel. We have a fully independent suspension. We have a shifter inside the car that allows you to do the setup of the vehicle. So you can put it in normal mode, you get the best fuel economy, and then you can shift it to sport mode and adjust the throttle mapping and how the shift points and how it handles, and give that person the flexibility on how they want the vehicle to respond. And then we have a kind of a weather setting, a Traction Plus, that will have slow starts. So like when you're in snow, even without all-wheel drive, it'll do a second gear start and adjust the throttle mapping there too. And electronic stability control. So we're giving a lot of flexibility to the customer, but more importantly, I think we're just giving the fun of driving back to the marketplace.
So, Chris, you're a big driver. How does that sound to you?
Well, that sounds all pretty great to me, and there's a lot of fun built in, I think, to the Fiat DNA.
Yeah.
The Abarth standard 500 is a great deal of fun, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask. You've done a lot of line extensions on the standard 500. Is that something that you envision for this model as well? You've sort of kept away from that to this point. It's still early with the 500L.
Yeah, so actually we have a kind of a buzz model that's coming on the 500L called the Urbana, and it's going to be a little bit different looking than the Trekking and the Easy that we have in the market today. Again, doing that extension like you're talking about. But even from the base vehicle, the 500X, because there are so many competitors coming into the marketplace that will all have their own take on what the B segment UV should be, we have the vehicle that I have here is the 500X Trekking. So it's more the adventurous, it's the person that likes the Italian style but has maybe a little bit more adventurous type mindset. And then we'll have another line of vehicles called Street, which will give you more of the refinement. So again, the content, you will still have a good, better, best within the lineup, but within that content, you'll have two distinct personalities to go off what you're saying. So if you are a little bit looking for something that plays your personality, we're going to give you several options.
And part of the Trekking, that has a different ride height, correct? This looks like it's sitting quite
Yeah, so
high.
The difference between the Trekking and the Street, there's actually no ride height difference.
Oh, is that right?
The difference between the two would be all-wheel or no all-wheel drive. That's where you'll get the ride height difference. So again, we're going to have the same platform, the same DNA, the same Fiat dynamic selector that gives you that personable driving style, and then on top of it, we'll give you two distinctly exterior packages and interior package that you can choose from.
At the LA show a couple of weeks ago, the 500X was there, and the Renegade was on the floor, and the Trax, I believe, was on the floor, and Honda and Mazda all had news about this. One of the things that I thought was interesting at looking at the variety there is every one of them has a clearly different personality, and everybody has a different take. And I think when we look at the B car segment, we don't see as much differentiation. Cars tend to sort of blend together, and it's really neat to see this segment coming on strong with so many different personalities.
Yeah, if you look at the average transaction price for all the vehicles, the Juke, the Encore, the Countryman, I mean, it's around $25,000 average MSRP. And then you look at the C hatches that are out there, and they're around $23,500 average transaction price. So there's a lot of people, I think, that maybe didn't have the ability to go down in size, but would give up a little bit of size for some personality. And then one of the things that we did with this car, I think was really important, is we are bringing a lot of technology you see in much larger vehicles down to this. So we're talking lane departure, forward collision warning with full stop, blind spot, cross path, things that you as a consumer would like to have, especially as you drive a B segment car in the U.S. I mean, that's one of the things we hear from our consumers. Love the car, I just want to make sure I feel safe. And so we're going to bring a lot of technology to this car that I think will give them that feeling.
Traditionally, U.S. buyers have been sort of resistant to small cars and have brought safety up. Are you finding in your research before the car gets on sale, of course, that those features do make people feel safer with the smaller size? Yeah,
I think, a lot of the stuff that we put into cars, from airbags and the 70% high strength steel, that gives the feeling of security if you're in an accident. But I think things that people want to avoid is getting into that accident. So a lot of these features that we're going to put into these vehicles are going to give that element of that extra precaution that people can really feel safe and secure when driving the car. And Lord knows that you have all these opportunities on the road that you could get yourself into a tough situation. And if you can help avoid that, I think it's key to it.
Where's this car going to be built?
This is going to be built in Melfi.
So it'll be an Italian car from Italy.
It will be an Italian car from Italy.
So
yes.
Very authentic.
Very. And the great thing about this is, this is the first vehicle that, my designers are in Italy. I go over there and work with our engineering teams here and there. It's the first vehicle that was really built with both markets in mind. So, the 500L was a vehicle that was going to be built, and we homologated it for the U.S. market. This was, I've been working on this car for almost 3.5 years. And when we started this out, they said, what do you want? And we said, here's a list of things that we want for this car to be competitive, and that was day one. So I think when you do get to drive this vehicle, I think you'll realize that it's going to have all the stuff Fiat's known for, the fun to drive things, but you're going to have a lot of the creature comforts that you would expect on a car that you'd see on the road in the U.S.
So that's what Americans are looking for? Americans are looking for more comfort than Europeans?
It's a different driving dynamic. I mean, in our market, I feel like, you know, the people that are driving smaller cars kind of had a stigma they're doing it because of price or fuel economy. And now we're showing that you could take some of the ideas that the Europeans have, where you have a smaller car with a lot more refinement, and deliver it in a marketplace and be successful. And I think this car shows that, because you're going to have a smaller package, but most of us don't need the big cars on a daily basis. But you want to have some of those things that you want, whether it's the text-to-talk, whether it's the navigation system, whether it's like a Via Mobile that connects your phone to your radio head, so you don't have to use your phone. You can play your Pandora and different things off of your headset. Those are things that, whether you're Millennial, Gen Xer, or Boomer, it's relevant. And I think that's why having that kind of offering at this segment with the growth opportunity, I think, is going to be important.
And those are features, too, that once people sort of have them and experience them at one point, they don't want to give them up.
Oh,
can't live without them. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, we were talking a couple of weeks ago with a few of my friends, and, you know, for those of us that have blind spot, and then you get into another car without it, or this car also has heated steering wheel. I mean, once you've had it, and especially in Michigan, and when it's 38 degrees in December, it's like, okay, I really like that,
yeah.
you know. And it's one of those things that if you never had it, fine, but if you've had it, it's hard to give it up.
Heated seats.
Yeah, yes, I was going to say, and push button start is the other thing that I was just thinking about, that, you know, you have to pay for extra in a $50,000 car from Germany, but comes standard in a $15,000 car from Korea, and that's one of those subtle points.
And
right?
that's, you know, one of the things that we did on this is on most of our lineup, except for our very entry level, we're going to have passive entry, keyless go, and remote start standard across the board. Again, just adding the extra feeling of, you know, we know people are always carrying stuff in their hands. They can just reach and grab the handle, open the door, get in, start without having to dig through whether it's a purse, the pockets, or whatever. I think it's really going to make life easier for them, which is one of the other things as a manufacturer we want to do.
It's great to have a car where you don't actually see the key for months at a time.
Yes, yeah.
It's great. You can lose it in all kinds of places.
I get out to my car all the time and realize I didn't even have it, because I'm so used to just grabbing the handle and the door unlocking. I gotta get my keys.
So my question for you is, this vehicle is quite similar in size to the existing 500L. I've sat inside both of them, and they feel very different. I mean, the 500L is, you know, a lot airier, and this you know, the ride height feels higher, and it feels more like a proper crossover. But the 500L hasn't really taken off in terms of sales, it seems like. I mean, you're on target to do about 12,000 units this year. And compared to the competition, that's quite low. Are you worried about cannibalization here between the two models?
No, actually, I think it's going to actually help. So we've done a couple things on the 500L for 15 model year. The first thing is, you know, we had the European twin clutch, the DDCT transmission that we launched the car with, and we always had an intention of bringing a fully automatic transmission to the marketplace. We're getting feedback from consumers that they love the fuel economy, but, you know, they still want a torque converter, especially in rolling and hilly situations. So in 15 model year, we're going to have an Eisen transmission. We adjusted the suspension of the 500L, which gives a little softer ride to it, and we put a different ergonomically styled seat into the 500L that's a little bit more fitting for the U.S. market. So we've done some things that when we do drive the traffic in, some of those reasons for rejection, I think we will overcome. And then I think because of the size of this segment, that's going to, you know, in the next year or two is going to explode, and by 2020 it's up 230%. I think now you drive traffic, which is the one thing Fiat needs to do, is get awareness, drive traffic, and then you can convert people.
So who is going to buy this vehicle, and who's going to buy the 500L?
You know, I think, in my perspective, this car can fit anyone that has, you know, wants functionality and capability, and so can the L. What will be the rub is, do you want more functionality or do you want more capability? Meaning, do you want all-wheel drive or do you want more space? And I think that when a customer comes in, depending on what they want to use the car for, it is a B-segment car. So the people that are driving it are going to have to decide, am I carrying a lot of stuff? That's probably going to be the 500L. Do I want something fun and sporty and a little bit more aligned to my personality, whether that is? I think that will give someone the opportunity to take the X. So,
and what about the 500? We haven't talked about the 500 at all.
The 500 is doing outstanding. You know, we gained almost a half a point of market share this year, and it's all based on some of the things that you were talking about, which is how do we give a car more personality? How do we continue to take that strength and continue to evolve it? So we did the 500 hatch, then the Cabrio, then the Abarth. Then we came out with the Gucci. Then we came out with the 1957 that really allowed us to talk about the historical relevance of the Fiat brand, and we continue to do things that expand the reach.
So you think you've got a good triple play going to be working here?
Yeah, you know, the great thing about the Fiat brand is we don't have a set customer. Mm-hmm. You know, we pull in as many, you know, just as likely to see a millennial driving a car as a boomer, mm-hmm. and we really just go after as many customers as we can by differentiating the personality that we're offering.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick break here and come back and maybe have some questions from some customers.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's only one car company in America that's never made a single car. And while you won't find Firestone cars on any showroom floor, they're out there, running better, faster, stronger, longer. No, we don't build cars. But make no mistake, Firestone is a car company. So whatever you drive a Firestone.
Okay, and we're back, and we want to thank Firestone for supporting the show. We wouldn't be filming this without them or shooting this live. So, okay, we're back with Matt Davis, Head of Marketing for Fiat, and we've got a number of questions here.
All right.
Some of them you can't answer, and I get that, so
okay.
That's okay. When will Fiat, this is from Frank from New York City, when will Fiat deliver vehicles that are not based on the 500? How about a small, fun-to-drive sedan, something for those of us who love the Jettas from the early 2000s?
So that's the great thing about my job is I'm 3 to 4 years out, so I can't tell you what our plan is, but I can tell you that it doesn't always have to be a 500.
Okay. Altabama, will we ever get the Panda?
So when you look at the U.S. market, you know, if you look at the global reach of Fiat, there is like this aspirational and then there's this functional side of Fiat. And our CEO, Olivier Francois, has been very clear on having two distinct personalities. The 500 is definitely the aspirational thing, and there's a positioning for the U.S. market that we really want to stay down that path. So the Panda would be more functional, and at this point, I don't see that coming.
So, in other words, you guys are going for the style, the
design,
flair,
yeah. You know, there's so much competition here, and we want to be different. We have 220 dealerships, and you look at some of the competitors we have. Some are 2,500, 3,000, 4,000. I have to give customers a reason to come to our dealerships. That's different than all the other offerings that other manufacturers bring. So we have to be unique and different and appealing in another way other than just being modes of transportation.
Okay. And Dr. Botox wants to know, what's the Abarth take rate for the 500?
We don't break it out. I will tell you that it's grown significantly year over year. We added an automatic transmission to it, and if you have not driven it, it's outstanding. We actually tuned the automatic transmission in sport mode to act like it's on a track. So you get so many great characteristics, but it's doing very well for us, and we're very pleased, and it's just a blast to drive. So we'll continue to look at ways to expand that.
Is the auto outselling the manual now?
In 15 model year, it's about a 70% take rate on the automatic. And you kind of expect that. You've been in the market with Abarth manual for the last 2 years. So there's been people, some pent-up demand, if you'll call it. But we really expect it to be 56%, 50 to 60% take rate long term.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have a phone call. Ben, want to bring that in for us, please?
My question is, this is Clem Zarowski for Delmont, Pennsylvania. My question is, how are the Fiat dealerships doing? I noticed the Cochran family of auto dealerships have closed their Fiat dealership here in western Pennsylvania. How are the other dealers doing? Thank you.
No problem. Thanks for the call. So when you look at the brand itself, we really have positioned the Fiat dealerships around major metro markets. For a while there, especially with the 500, it definitely was a city car, at least predominantly. But the upside is that our offerings now with the 500L and now the 500X and maybe some other cars coming will be a little bit more supportive of the volume and everything that's needed to really make a sustainable dealership. And so, you know, it's not been, when you look at the dealerships overall in the U.S., they've made investments in the franchise of building buildings and all that, and now we have to deliver on the volume to keep them healthy.
And you've also got Alfa Romeo coming into some of the dealers, right? So you're going to attract, you know, a wealthier clientele who may still be interested in something like a 500.
Yeah, no, you know, the great thing about that combination is we've gone to a lot of events with our other sister brands with Ferrari and Maserati, and everyone's like, you guys, you know, combine those two? But the Fiat does not look out of place amongst these cars. They're Italian style and design vehicles, and the Alfa Romeo will just complement that even more, giving you kind of a mid and a high type relationship in the showroom, and give, again, you walk in to buy an Alfa, maybe you buy a Fiat or vice versa. The father or the mother buy, and the daughter or whatever. There's just so many different offerings that you can really provide a customer. Yeah, exactly.
Driver.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's the fun thing about the industry right now. You can, whatever personality you have, whatever your lifestyle is, or if you have enough room for a couple of cars, there's something kind of out there for everyone right now.
Now, and that's, you know, honestly, like I said, we don't have a specific customer, but we just continue to expand the reach of the brand by the different things that we try to bring to the showroom.
In managing both raising awareness and trying to conquest some buyers, you've got a pretty broad marketing challenge there. How are you mixing up sort of your channels in order to make sure that you get to as many people as you can, kind of the mix between national advertising and how much digital and that kind of thing? And where are you seeing the best returns from what you've done so far?
The one that we have to stay consistent on is the TV. You know, getting people in the top of the funnel is probably the most difficult part of any brand. But we do really well on social. We do really well on digital. Mobiles, you know, we're one of the strongest in the company. But what we're seeing is we have to educate customers more than most brands because they're unfamiliar with us. So we spend a lot of time on the web through our different websites that we have out there, trying to give them information so they feel more confident in their buying decision. And then when they do buy, our owner base is so loyal and so positive about the brand. It's great to hear from them.
Well, one of the benefits of a brand that's lower volume is you're inherently part of a club.
Yeah.
You know, and so you eventually can drive down the road and wave hi at everybody that you know, your fellow ownership, and that's a nice feeling.
No, absolutely, and you know, not to, you know, I drove a Wrangler for many years, and you get the Jeep Wave, and it's, you know, I didn't expect it. I take a lot of Fiats home on the weekends and drive even the X last weekend just to see what it was like, and it's funny, people that drive Fiats will pull over and like look at it and like wave and ask you to roll down the window. I mean, it's just such a loyal following. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so this might be. So this is Jim Friend's Reb. Please speak to the quality or perceived lack thereof in comparison with other makes. Do you agree that Fiat needs to improve in this area? If so, what are you doing about it?
Absolutely. When you look at the studies that came out recently, it was, and this is an excuse, it was bad timing on our part. When you look at our model year changeovers, 91% of our volume that we had in the study was on the 500L, which was a brand new car. The 500 is actually one of the best performing vehicles in quality in the company, but we only had 10%, whereas the 500L is only about 20% of my mix. That is no excuse. We know it was a new car, and we know there were some issues, and a lot of it had to do with people coming back and not being familiar with a DDCT and having that. All that aside, we have all the tension in the world on the top of the house to make sure that the 500X is launched and launched very, very high quality. From a production standpoint, the 500X will be the fourth vehicle launched in the plant, and that will help us as well make sure that we deliver a good, solid quality vehicle. But I can tell you from anyone that has anything to do with our product and all the different brands we have, that is definitely our number one focus right now.
So quality is really an area where people should be concerned going forward?
Well, you look at the standards that you have in the marketplace. I mean, there's things that you have as you bring new technology, whether it's DDCT or Uconnect or text to talk. There's things that people come back, and you're going to go through that. What we have to do is just make sure that we're over delivering on what the customer is getting and how they're taken care of at the time of sale, because it is part of this industry, and anything you do is very well documented in the marketplace. So we just got to do a better job of staying in front of it and making sure we're staying on top of the quality of the company.
And I think quality these days has sort of a different meaning than it might have, even 10 years ago, because the metrics that are measured are different in those surveys. So whereas when I think of quality, I still think of reliability. Am I going to get stranded on the side of the road?
Right.
And that's really not the metric anymore. It's things like the transmission refinement that you were talking about with the dual clutch. Or the size of the cup holder, or the how snappy the response is on the nav system.
Yes.
And those are the things that customers will kind of make or break you on today.
Sure. And 10 years ago, nobody would have even known that fast when there are these things. I mean, so.
You hear about the industry was rated at claims per 100, and now it's claims per 1,000. So we've made leap steps in where we have and where we've been, but you're still measured against the benchmark. We do a good job.
And there are more surveys, it feels like, than there was in the past. And the things like how fast a navigation system responds and those are the things you live with on a day-to-day basis and can really annoy you. And I think people do understand there's very few cars. There's really not a car out there that's you can say is going to probably leave you stranded. You're just not at that quality level right now. So the better that you make it, the more that the sort of issues that we might have called lesser issues before come to the forefront.
Yeah, you just need to recalibrate your expectations and really deliver on those things.
Absolutely.
So since this is not Paris, VRM Chris wants to know, is there serious consideration of a 4-cylinder diesel for the North American market?
So we are obviously looking at all things that we have in our portfolio to try to bring to the market. Right now, we've had a few vehicles, the Ram 1500 and the Grand Cherokee, that have the diesel in it. If there's success there, then maybe it would make sense. But the one thing we have to do is the cost versus the return, and when gas is at $2 a gallon or $2.50, it makes it even more difficult to make that case. But we're definitely looking at anything at our disposal, especially as I work with our European engineers and counterparts. We look at that.
So you have the diesel engines. It's not like this is something you'd have to invent.
Yeah, it's just making it for the U.S. market that would be the challenge. And is the investment worth the payoff for the customer and what they're going to have to pay, and how many people would really want that? There are people that want it. I get the question quite often, but are people willing to pay that step up?
And are there enough of them that are
That's exactly.
Well, and the cost of a diesel engine is such that as a percentage of purchase price, it'd be a lot harder to absorb in something like this than it is in a Ram or a Grand Cherokee.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. But it would be a hell of a lot of fun to drive.
It would be a lot of fun for.
You'd have the diesel, you'd have the all-wheel drive. I mean,
There's
come
always
on.
two different conversations there.
Well, I'm just saying that it just seems to me that even you would be willing to pay more, just the way some people pay more to get a Hemi. Than
absolutely.
This could be the Fiat version of a Hemi to have a diesel in that vehicle. So we haven't. You mentioned gasoline prices are very inexpensive right now, and there seems to be some belief that that'll continue to be the case. Is that a concern, or is that a benefit, gasoline, for this vehicle in terms of pricing? Or
I think when gas gets to $5, I think that really opens up the fuel economy conversation. When it gets down to where it is today, I think everything is relative, right? Like if you were spending $80 now, you're spending 60, you're spending 60, and now it's 40. It's still disposable income at some point. We're seeing that people are still shopping us because it's unique and different and offers a unique driving characteristic, and we need to continue to play that up because these cars are a blast to drive, and they're so easy to park, and it gives you a lot more utility than you would expect when you just said it's a B-segment car. And I think people are realizing they don't have to have the big vehicles anymore. They can get a lot of fun out of these cars with a lot of technology that we're packing into them.
Okay. Well, Matt Davis, we want to thank you for being with us tonight, and I'm sure that we all look forward to driving that vehicle. So second quarter 2015, this will be available to the market?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And so now we're going to go to an interview with me in Reno, Nevada. I was out on the program to drive the 2016 Kia Sorento. Seems odd. This is 2014. It'll go on sale at the beginning of 2015, but it'll be a 2016 model. So I'm talking to Steve Hiroshiki, who is a senior product planning manager for the company. So with that, take it away. Hi, I'm here with Steve Hiroshiki, who is the Senior Product Strategy Manager for Kia of America. And why are we here in downtown Reno, Nevada? We're here because we're looking and driving and learning about the third generation 2016 Kia Sorento. It seems a little odd that it's a 2016 Kia Sorento since this is 2014 and it's coming out in 2015. So Steve, why 2016?
Well, actually, when the second generation launched, it actually launched in January, a year ahead of schedule. So it's kind of kept the entire life cycle for that generation and is continuing on into the current.
So that second generation came out in January of 2010.
Correct.
And so this one will be coming out in January of 2015.
Correct.
So what are the changes? What are the differences? Why should someone be interested in this new vehicle?
Well, the third generation has an all-new exterior, all-new interior, a new platform, new engine choices. It's really, really taken the Sorento brand to the next level.
And one of the aspects of this vehicle is that it is actually 3 inches longer than the previous generation vehicle. Why did you guys decide to go bigger?
We actually went back to our current customers and did research exactly what they liked about the vehicle and what they didn't like. What they did like was the just right size. They didn't want an overly large mid-size CUV or full size, but they did want a little bit more room on the inside in the passenger space, and that's exactly what we did. We made it bigger, but just where customers would appreciate it, and that's with passenger roominess.
So basically the vehicle size difference is really discernible, not so much when you're driving it, but more when you're sitting in it, whether you're sitting in the front row, the second row, or there's even a third row available.
Yes, and the third row is what's kind of unique with the Sorento. A lot of CUVs are out there, a lot of great ones, but a lot of them are just 2 rows. With the Sorento, it's positioned in the marketplace so that it comes as a 2-row or a 3-row configuration.
Okay, and You've put a lot of technology in this vehicle. You guys, Kia has been doing this, upping this game right along, but this one is now taking it to a new level for this this category of vehicle?
Yes, in terms of technology, we've added lane departure warning, forward collision warning, there's around view monitor, there's advanced cruise control, which is great in a crowded city in stop and go traffic. It's just a lot of features. And not only just the driver aids, also with the interior, with some of the entertainment. We have the new Infinity system with 630 watts with the Clarify sound restoration technology. We've updated the UVO system as well, which now comes with Yelp and SoundHound. So there's just improvements throughout the vehicle.
And another thing that's interesting is that you guys are taking this to market and you're competing against a large array of vehicles. So basically going from the Jeep Cherokee to the Jeep Grand Cherokee, just to use 2 bookends on this. And this means that you have powertrain choices that you didn't offer before. Could you give us a quick...
Yes. New for the 2016, we've added a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engine. So it provides power as well as efficiency. And we've joined that with our 2-row configurations. We've continued our 3-row version with the 3.3-liter V6, but we've increased the capacity of that so it can now tow up to 5,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm. So you've been working on this vehicle for a while. You know this vehicle better than other people do. What's your favorite aspect of the new Sorento?
It's the refinement. The vehicle has lots of features, and it has great value. But what we did with this generation, we focused on the dynamics of the vehicle, so the way the handling and NVH, as well as interior materials. So it really has, it comes with Napa leather seating. There's carpeted panels throughout the interior, soft touch everywhere.
So you
really
just brought it all together in this vehicle.
Yes.
I want to thank you for your time today, and best of luck.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we're back in Farmington Hills, Michigan, no longer in Reno, Nevada, thank God. Okay, I want to talk to you guys about Uber. So this has not been a great week for Uber. They've been having some serious problems that There was an alleged rape in India, so they've been banned from India. There's some problems in the Netherlands in terms of the licensing. They're being sued by San Francisco. They're being sued by Portland, of all places. You'd imagine that Uber, the car sharing and ride sharing service, would be golden in that place. And Spain, out. So here's this company that's valued for $41 billion. And
that came in this week. So they've had both a very good week and a very bad week.
Right. So okay. So what's your take on this? I mean, because it seems to me that conceivably this could have a huge effect on whether people buy cars, especially in urban areas.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's disruptive technology, right? Somebody came in with a new business model, and they are, trying to do an end around on existing businesses, the taxi services, and they've been very aggressive about doing so, and they've got a leadership team in place that doesn't mince words and is happy to ruffle feathers and do whatever is necessary to see their business grow. In fact, it's not unlike Tesla in a way, where they have an outsized leader presence who says kind of off the cuff things that will make everybody cringe or write headlines. And they're both doing things their own way. And I think Uber's been very successful to this point. If you look at how long it's been around, to have that valuation. I mean, there's nobody that's had that sort of market cap that quickly. I can't think of anybody.
Looking at some of their problems, I think some of them are fairly predictable. While regulations sometimes go too far and feel very straitjacketing and get annoying, some of them are there for a reason. Some of them there actually do make taxi services safer. And it's fairly predictable that something was going to go wrong, and it wasn't going to be pleasant when it did. I've looked at the Uber model, and the thing that I cannot fully grasp is entirely why the taxi services themselves simply don't just go, hey, Uber, can you set an app up for my taxi service? I mean, why not? The idea of calling a taxi through your phone, through the app, is a no-brainer. But the existing taxi services, for a lot of different reasons, I think some of the regulations have something to do with that, but don't seem to be adapting, and I believe there's some cost issues involved, and I can see some of it, but Uber's been around since 2009. In that space of time, I haven't seen the taxi industry say, wait a second, instead of letting this technology disrupt our business and sit back and fight it in a different way, why don't we figure out how to use it to our advantage?
But I mean, this is the incumbent mentality, and so it's not necessarily just taxi services. It could be car companies too, and But
I think it's interesting that I mean, it's a global product, and no one that I've heard of from the taxi industry has stepped up and said, there's not even a pocket someplace.
Yeah, it was just sort of interesting. Speaking of global, so again, this is an interesting week for them. They opened Uber in Hanoi, Sofia, Bulgaria, and Tianjin, China, all this week. So now they're in over 250 cities.
There's not a whole lot of infrastructure to lay out with these guys, right? I mean, it's not like you have to build garages and stuff for all of your taxis, and you don't have to lay out millions of dollars for medallions. I mean, it's
right. And that's one of the things. I mean, so back to your point of why they didn't do something. Well, if you have this medallion, which basically the medallion owners tend to lease out to drivers, so it's just this revenue that just keeps coming in. And I thought it was interesting. So one of the the big criticisms is the question of safety and the drivers, and so I was thinking, we all take cabs, and what's up with these people? So I went to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they have a page that is how to become a taxi or a chauffeur, taxi driver or chauffeur. And I thought it was very interesting. Quote, most taxi drivers and chauffeurs go through brief training. Many states and local municipalities require them to get a taxi or limousine license. Although a high school diploma is not required, many taxi drivers and chauffeurs have one. I'm feeling so confident as I'm reading through this. I mean, it's then.
The taxi experience in general, and I say this with all due respect, has never had the best public image in terms of safety or quality, or it just doesn't.
they're just easier to track down. I mean, in terms of safety and regulations, they've already paid insurance. There is a standard that has to be met. And some of the questions that have been coming out in the last couple of weeks is really, are Uber standards strict enough? And to be fair, the taxi industry doesn't sound like it has amazingly. We're talking about a really high bar and a really low bar. We're talking about a couple of bars that aren't really very high. But still, I think that what Uber's going through is to be fairly expected. It doesn't mean it can't be overcome. And I think part of the reason that they're in the news as much and seeing as much trouble is from reading about some of the cases, Uber is fighting more than some of their competitors are. Some of their competitors are settling faster, which takes the topic, takes Lyft out of the news for this thing. But
and some of the tactics that...
So Lyft being another competitive company, and Sidecar is another one that's out there.
That they've had some controversy around how they deal with their competitors as well, right?
Yes.
And with the media, in all fairness. And it reminds me, too, of the dealership fight that Tesla is going through, state by state by state, and having to deal with all these different regulations in different parts of the world, and how much time and effort has to be expended on that, where the general customer probably doesn't care as long as the taxi cab shows up at the appointed time and gets them from place to place. They're just happy that it's less expensive.
Well, speaking of Tesla, so since you both touched on Tesla, we have to talk for a minute, because I think there hasn't been a show in months that we haven't talked about Elon Musk and Tesla. So you mentioned earlier, you're getting ready for the Detroit show. You said there's going to be a lot of good stuff at the Detroit show. The Detroit show is coming up in January, second week of January. Tesla, which had a press conference at the auto show last year, is not scheduled to have a press conference this year. Now, if we go back to last year, they had a press conference. Now, normally auto companies hold press conferences and introduce new product. We'll have this product coming, or here is a concept car, which you will see at some point in the future. Last year, they had nothing, okay? They've got the Model X coming. Seems to be very popular to put an X at the end of your...
It's versatile.
Yes. And they've got, so the Model X, I think, is going to be next year. And then there'll be the Model 3, and I think that's 2016.
Model X is late 15. It might be early 16.
I thought they switched that around. But be that as it may, they conceivably have a product to show at the North American International Auto Show, yet they are not going to be there. Is there anything to this, or is it just an excuse to talk about Elon Musk and Tesla?
That might be an excuse to talk about Elon Musk and Tesla. No, I'm not reading anything into it just at the moment. They're plenty busy right now trying to deal with the state issues.
Yeah, and they're trying to get the X out the door, right?
I mean, the X out the door.
That's been delayed a few times.
And if they don't have the property ready, it's awfully expensive to stand up and say not much of anything. Really,
but I think he can do that very well. See, my
he needs his Twitter for that. Here.
Well, he does that too, yeah.
You do it cheaply.
See, but my take on that is that basically, I think this may be another aspect to him being a disruptive auto company from the point of view of him saying, you know what, all those other guys do that at these auto shows. I'm going to hold my own auto show. Because remember when he introduced the new car with the dual engines, and he rented an airplane hangar and did it all himself, right?
Sure.
And got immense media coverage.
Yeah, because you're not competing with anybody at that point.
Exactly. So you just do it that way rather than saying, okay, and so, it may be just changing what is, the nature of, do auto companies need to go to auto shows?
Well, and Tesla has never really treated the media in a traditional fashion, right? They haven't made their vehicles available in the same within the same system that all the other press vehicles are available, with that frequency or transparency about their sales and all of that. There's all sorts of ways in which they are different. And obviously it hasn't hurt their ability to get headlines and to get sales to this point. So they have no real reason to change that. And why court at an auto show, which is sort of an old technology approach to things, when you've got the internet that'll give you the stage at any given time. And frankly, there's so much of a cult of personality built out around both Elon Musk and the brand that if he has a bake sale, people are going to come to the bake sale. So he doesn't need the auto show.
That's true, and especially true at this point when the sales are strong, but we aren't talking about a lot of units. We're talking about 30,000 units a year in the States. And right now, he doesn't have to work as hard to convert considerers to buyers. At some point, it's going to become a bigger hurdle. Sure. And how much or how little he partakes in the auto show scene remains to be seen. But at some point, it's going to be harder to get buyers than it is right now. Right now, yeah.
And there's been some discussion lately about how their sales really are in the U.S., right?
Yeah, it's not great. But so let's shift to a more conventional company that could be less conventional going forward. Ford Motor Company. So they made some announcements today. So Stephanie, you want to?
Well, they brought out the next generation of Sync 3. My Ford Sync, and then My Ford Touch, and now Sync 3. And went and changed the design, made things a lot faster and a lot smoother to use, and trying to address a lot of the complaints that consumers had for usability of the system and how fast it went, all of that. But now we're at a point where most auto manufacturers have some kind of infotainment system in there. When My Ford Touch and Sync first started out, they were among the first to really do this. At this point, the changes that they're making, I'm sure, are an improvement, and they're going to make customers happier, but it's not necessarily a reason to buy over another manufacturer at this point when they all have some kind of system. And when you're spending $30,000 to $70,000 on a vehicle, the system matters, but it's not going to ultimately be your only choice. At the same time, they need to keep moving that forward. You can't stop innovating. You can't stop looking at the system.
So they went from Sync powered by Microsoft to Sync 2.0 powered by QNX, which is a company of BlackBerry. Which, okay, how many of you have a BlackBerry?
Used to.
Yeah. Oh. I've never
it's right next to my Palm Pilot.
There you go. So there was they made another announcement today, and it's right up your alley, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, Autoblog, we're all about performance cars and the joy of driving, and they announced that the long-awaited Focus RS is going to be coming back, and it'll be coming to America this time, which is wonderful news. There's not a lot of specifics around the vehicle itself. Obviously, we already know the ST, and we love that vehicle here in the States, and we love the Fiesta ST as well. The RS is probably going to be, sort of next level in terms of power, and supposedly will come with all-wheel drive to marshal all of that power, which is great. So it'll be interesting to see how well that takes off compared to something like a Golf R, and if they can command the price point that they need to with that vehicle. I'm really glad to see it. It's one aspect of the One Ford plan that we haven't really seen, coalesce yet. And our guys are really excited about the performance end of everything. So that's, I think, what we've been talking about for several years already at this point.
So one of the things, it seems to me, is that this is a millennial play, that they want to get younger people, enthusiasts, to come into the Ford brand. They've already done the major engineering on these vehicles, on these platforms, and so adding some, more power under the hood, change up the suspension, steering, so on, that you can go a long way for comparatively little investment.
I think the other interesting thing is we've got Ford talking about performance. At LA, performance was a little bit bigger of a deal, and also coming up for NAIAS is Mercedes talking about an AMG sport level between the standard car and AMG, and I think Lexus has confirmed that they're going to give out or show 2 performance cars, and some of the information coming out ahead of time. I keep seeing the phrase, we want performance to entice younger buyers, and we haven't heard that sentiment out of the auto manufacturers for a few years, and I'm kind of glad to see that that's back.
Don't younger buyers want Uber? I mean, I'm serious. I mean, if
there's some of that, but it's also, I think, Stephanie's correct. The automakers during the crisis were sort of back on their heels. They were delaying products, and then what had to come out was the bread and butter stuff. The things you have to get out the door in volume so that your faithful customers can come back and replace their, previous Taurus with a new Taurus. And now that the industry has some money that they're banking, they've got the opportunity to do these line extensions, and there tends to be more money to be made at these higher-end products, as you were alluding to. So it's smart for them to do it, and frankly, I still think there's a legitimate market for young people being interested in performance. It may be different types of performance than what we've historically been used to, but I think they've been over at Ford, they've been buoyed by the strong success of the ST models to this point. So it's sort of a natural progression for them.
All right, so you get Sync, you get the performance cars. Now I get my piece of Ford here. Okay, so this gets me back to the whole thing of Uber-esque and perhaps Tesla-esque, because they also announced today, and now this is a brilliant line that I have to read verbatim from the press release. Ford Motor Company is paying forward its legacy as one of America's original mobility startups by joining with Techstars to launch Techstars Mobility, driven by Detroit. The startup business incubator is aiming to deliver innovative mobility and transportation solutions, and this is going to quote Bill Ford. Now, this I think is massive, which gets back to my original point of this is like an old school company that seems to want to be changing itself. So Bill Ford Jr., the chairman, his name's on the door. As a society faces the increasing challenges of traffic congestion, crowded cities, and poor infrastructure, we must reinvent the way we live and do business if we want to make a positive impact on future generations. Now, can you imagine a guy who's running a car company saying that?
Yeah, partially because that has been a conversation amongst the car companies for a little bit, and there is a recognition that going forward mobility will look different. And talking about disrupting yourself or allowing yourself to be set off to the side, auto manufacturers do have to look at what the new ownership models may look like, and everything from car sharing, BMW's got one, Mercedes have one. They've in Europe working at that. So it's not the first time that an auto manufacturer has started to look at that. I think we'll see more of that. It'll take a little while for that to implement and see what consumers really want to do. But there's space for some sort of car sharing kind of thing. And
do you think it's big, or do you think this is just going to be?
It's still hard to see. It's
what do you
still
think?
Too early.
I think it can be really big.
Yeah,
I really do. The question is, will all the legislative issues work themselves out? But especially if you're getting down the road into the realm of autonomous cars, that makes car sharing a lot easier, because the car can probably come to you way down the road, whether there's anybody in there or not. It can be waiting outside of your door, and you can sort of timeshare with other people. And frankly, people have a lot of other ways to spend money these days that they didn't before. But we all have phones and subscriptions to just about everything. And I really think there is something there. Ford itself has been saying for years now that they want to be viewed as a tech company and as a mobility company. I mean, they've cozied up to CES. They were right out front with Microsoft with the Sync product and My Ford Touch, and so this is just a further extension of that.
It's an ongoing process, and one other thing, autonomy will make a difference for being able to timeshare and car share, but we still have a situation where there's a majority of people on the road at any given moment. Time-sharing cars and all of that can help take the edge off of it, but we still have a majority of people around at the same time. And if you're saying, if you look at when people need something that only holds one or two people versus when they need to hold a family, you're still going to have people who need to hold vehicles that hold a family on the weekends, and the demand is going to be higher there. So we're still kind of, maybe.
Or you have an automaker that's willing to offer you that flexibility. You're paying a subscription fee, and for that you get access to a panoply of cars. And
so you get transportation, not a car.
Right. You get a mobility solution. So some of that's already started to happen with the electric vehicles, right? You get access if you buy. I think if you buy an i3. You can have a certain number of times per year that you can have access to a conventional gas-powered car.
The electric Fiat 500, it was the same sort of thing that you had access to nationwide or some car rental thing. Okay, so final thing, we're coming toward the end here. So the North American Car and Truck of the Year award finalists were announced. Now Chris is a judge, so all right. So I want to know whether the right choices were made, because maybe you didn't vote for any of these. Maybe. All right, so for trucks, Chevrolet Colorado, Ford F-150, Lincoln MKC.
A case can be made for all three of them. I have a feeling, my guess, and it's just a guess, I'm not on the jury, and it's a very interesting jury with a lot of people pulling in different directions. My guess is it'll be Ford F-150.
But is that correct?
They've done a lot with with the aluminum and moving that forward. We don't have it in the field yet. And even Colorado, as interesting as that is for bringing a mid-sized pickup truck back in, neither of these are quite on the road yet. So we don't yet know what the full impact.
Well, the Colorado was Motor Trend Truck of the Year, and so
they're both great products.
Okay.
So we're there.
Chris?
I think the right finalists were chosen, for sure. I think the going logic has been that the F-150 will win this award. And I say that because I think there's a paradigm shift in terms of manufacturing. And, you know, by going to aluminum and losing the 700 pounds or so, and having to reinvent your supply chain and the way you fix cars and all of that, it changes the game. So I think that's been the assumption. However, I will say I think there's been an increasing amount of mind share around the Colorado as being a really, really good product that answers a lot of needs, is affordable. And the other issue is, as these F-150s are hitting the road, I've driven a number of them, and I think when you have that kind of weight loss, and when you have people talking up EcoBoost and the fuel economy ratings, and frankly, they've gotten very nice EPA numbers out of those vehicles, on the road, I haven't seen the fuel economy. And I think that's something that you've got to keep in mind as jurors. If you're driving around and you're supposed to be getting, you know, mid-20s or something, and you're getting 18, how much is that different than last year's product that was 700 pounds more?
And there are some cases where actually the fuel economy of the aluminum F-150 isn't any better than the all-steel Silverado. Okay.
Well,
Is interesting. The MKC got no discussion. Okay, better leave it there. Okay, now car finalists: Ford Mustang, Hyundai Genesis, and Volkswagen Golf. Stephanie.
I'm not sure which one's going to win there. Yeah, they're all worthy choices. They're all worthy choices. We didn't have as much change in the car industry in the finalists this year. There wasn't as much movement on that side of the market. Well, like we just said, Colorado is changing the way people are thinking about things a little bit, and F-150 has done a lot of things differently, and MKC that didn't get as much attention.
You got none. You guys didn't say a word about it.
Very nice product.
It's a nice product, and it is helping Lincoln change their image a little bit, and it's in the right segment. It's in the segment that is hot right now. So that's really neat. But we didn't have the same activity on the car side. So on the car side, we have really nice executions of really nice developments of vehicles that don't necessarily change anything about their segments.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Mustang is, it's not a revolution to get independent suspension in this day and age, right? I mean, you're sort of a holdover, but it changes that car pretty fundamentally, as does the reinstitution of a 4-cylinder engine option. That's actually a really nice 4-cylinder. I've said it to you on the show before, there's a lot more bandwidth in the Mustang, I think now, you know, as far as who it might appeal to. It might get some of the import tuner types with that 2.3 turbo and IRS and a much nicer interior. And there's still the great 5-liter that you can, you know, check all of those traditional muscle car boxes. So that's a really nice vehicle. I suspect that the Golf may find a lot of favor too, because that's a great product and it covers a wide range of things. It's affordable. And the interesting thing about the North American Car and Truck of the Year Awards is that there's really no checklist of criteria that you have to meet. So jurors weigh different things, and some people may prize affordability. Some people may prize refinement, fuel economy, or what have you. And the Golf range is really spectacular. The GTI is a wonderful enthusiast driving product. The TDI is a nice motor for diesel fans. And the standard car, actually, the one that I drove that was only a low 20s, $21,000, $22,000, with almost nothing in it, manual transmission, it was fantastic.
So sweet. I had drove one of those not too long ago as well.
Now, is that an enthusiast speaking, or is this a driver speaking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, it's a good value. It gets really good miles per gallon. In fact, one of the things is I would always talk up the TDI before, and now that the standard TFSI motor gets such good fuel economy, and there's that, you know, pricing delta between diesel and gas, I'd probably just get the low-end $22,000 car, and it's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, I was going to say you had mentioned that you don't have a set checklist as a juror to go through, and I do think that's really interesting because our jury is up to 57 or 67, 57 right now. But it's a nice award to see all that come out because I know a few of you on the jury, and everybody has great opinions and great different views, and it's almost as eclectic as the car buying population.
Yeah, and I think by expanding the jury and bringing in all those new voices that we did this year. You're right. I think it all sort of washes out, but it is great to have all those different opinions.
It is great.
Yeah. All right, so this will be a final thing. This will be a little quiz for you, North American Car and Truck of the Year Award people. The year is 1999. I'm going to give you the car finalists, and you tell me who won. The Chrysler 300M, the Honda Odyssey. God knows why there was a car back then, but Volkswagen New Beetle.
300M.
New Beetle.
Bing.
That's the 300M, not the 300.
Oh, that's right.
Truck finalists. Chevy Silverado. GMC Sierra. Jeep Grand Cherokee. Steph.
Cherokee. Grand Cherokee.
I agree.
Bing. You guys know your cars. Okay. So I think we're ready to wrap the show up. So, okay. Now, we mentioned at the top of the show this is the end of the year, and people get nostalgic, people give gifts, all sorts of things go on. So next week, we're going to have the Presents and Coal edition of Autoline After Hours. So we're going to have Aaron Bragman's going to be on the show. We haven't seen Aaron since we did the draft earlier this year. And we're going to have Mark Phelan. Mark, who was one of the commentators of the draft, and as anybody who's seen that show remembers, Aaron and Mark are hilariously funny. So if you haven't seen that show, I would go to YouTube and see it because it is great. And but John will be back, and we probably won't have this set. And so I strongly urge you to watch that. Now, for this show, John usually begins, and he tells you can see this on Stitcher, and it'll be at the iTunes store tomorrow, and it'll be on YouTube. It's a multitude of places. So, if I don't understand why we actually say this, because if you weren't watching this, you wouldn't hear this anyway, but that's neither here nor there. So,
chicken egg.
Yeah, chicken egg. That's exactly, we don't know which is first, but anyway. So, Stephanie Brinley, IHS, thank you for being here. It was very great. Chris Paukert.
Good to be here, thank you.
And always good. And so I want to thank all of you for watching, and hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I think we enjoyed doing it. So thank you. See you next week.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone. Your journey, our passion.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern. Get your daily news fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.